Hey, it's Father Roderick. It is 11:30 at night, and I just saw the movie Dune. I think this is one of the first screenings in my country. It's been 2 years since I've been to the movies. I think the last movie I saw at a theater was Star Wars I think it was December 2019. So it's not exactly 2 years, but still, it feels like 2 years. But to be able to go back to the movie theater and to see this movie that I've been looking forward to so much, wow, what an incredible gift that is. And I had a fantastic time. Now, for those of you that have read the novel, know that this movie stays very true to the original story, but it tells it in such a compelling way. During the first half hour of the movie, my initial thought that came to mind was, this is better than the book. And that is a huge compliment because, of course, Dune is such an epic, such a fundamental science fiction story. How can you improve on that? Well, I think the language of cinema actually makes the story even more accessible, makes it more, more interesting. They switch around the order of events a little bit. Some of actually all the moments that you know from the book are also in the movie, but it is presented in a more logical way, I think, a much more compelling way. So I was right into the story. One of the big issues that I had with the book at first, years ago, when I tried to read it was just so huge and it was so hard to get into. There was a lot of politics. You got all these weird names and strange languages. And what I loved about this movie is that it tells the same story, but from a very personal point of view. And you can immediately relate to the characters that play the major roles. And even some of the characters that are introduced at the very end of the movie are already present at the beginning. And I thought it was just structurally such a well-told story and such an homage to the book in a certain way. It honors the book and by improving on it. So what else can I say about it? One word that I was thinking constantly was, this is so majestic. I think one of the only movies that comes close in grandeur is 2001, and maybe the second Blade Runner movie, which of course has the same director. So it has a lot of that same visual style. The cinematography is gorgeous. The special effects are stunningly well done. I saw this movie in 3D, which, by the way, I didn't think was necessary. It added just this little bit of extra, but I think the visuals work perfectly well without 3D. But, it was nice. For my second viewing, I won't pay the extra price for the 3D, but it was nice to get that as well. The music by Hans Zimmer is fitting. It's a very different style from other movies. I wouldn't probably listen to an entire soundtrack on repeat, but it just matches the grandeur and the style of the visual style of the movie. Speaking of sound, the sound effects. I saw this in a huge theater. The screen that I was in has more than 1,000 seats, and it actually had one huge benefit, and that is the sound system was so crystal clear. And this movie needs that rumbling sound, when the sandworms arrive, and it's just like you feel it. You're shaking in your seat. That definitely added to the huge impact, the visual impact that the story had. What I also really liked was just the emotional impact of the story, the characters. The story takes its time. This is a long movie, and at the end of the movie, some of you may be disappointed, especially if you don't expect it. The movie stops in the middle, and it's actually what the movie announces at the beginning. This is just part one. And this movie begs for a second part. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they have already filmed a lot of the character scenes, because we see in the dreams of Paul Atreides, do I pronounce that correctly? We see a lot of flash forwards So he has this. Well, I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but we see glimpses of what's to come, and that's why I feel that this movie on itself is enjoyable, but it definitely needs part two to be complete. And I'm pretty sure if this is going to be a success, and I'm pretty sure it is going to be a success, then there will be a part two. And wow, this movie needs it. What it also really does extremely well is to make the story accessible. Now, as you know, Dune has a lot of politics. It is a very complicated world. There's a lot of names, different characters, different factions. There was this whole backstory that you gradually discover that even this movie doesn't really touch upon that much. And then, of course, you've got the entire the backstory of Arrakis and the people that live there. There are some interesting themes in the original story and also in the movie. That it is also about, the planet being exploited. This spice mining destroys that planet. Actually, keeps it a desert planet, even though with a little bit of help, this could be a lush paradise for everyone, but it's greed. It's this spice that drives the universe that keeps it enslaved in this desert-like state. And yet there are people on that planet that are fighting for it, that they're proud of their planet. I think that's an interesting theme, especially in these times where we're all very worried about the future of our planet. And in a certain way, you could see this as a metaphor for what's happening right now. We have been mining our own planet, and we're turning it into a desert if we're not careful. So there is this, but I have to say that it's definitely not. Laying it on too thick. It is part of the original story. I think it is fitting for these times to tell that story now, but they don't overdo it. So there's a lot more to enjoy, but the movie makes it very accessible, even for a relatively someone who's relatively new to the entire saga, like I am. I haven't read all the other books. So, and I remember that when I first tried to read Dune, I was just really struggling with all the names and with the political character of the story. This movie really eases you into it, and I'm pretty sure that if you've seen this movie, if you never read any of the books, it will be much, much easier to actually step into the books themselves. And I'm definitely... I definitely want to reread the story and read the other, chapters, not chapters, but the other tomes of this saga as well. What else is there to say? The acting is great. Oh, Paul is such a fantastic. The depiction. I don't even know the name of the actor who plays him, but he does such a terrific job. He's totally the Paul that I imagined when reading the story. One of the other young actors that is in the movie that is heavily used in the promotion of the movie for good reason is Zaid. Oh, what's her name? Zaidana? Oh gosh, now I forget. Anyway, I know her from Spider-Man, from the Spider-Man movies. Zaidana, and also from The Greatest Showman. But she's hardly in the movie. Her role is super, super small. We see her mostly in flash forwards. We hear her voice, but it's really a tiny role. And I hope that in part two she'll get more to do, because I think that the chemistry is absolutely there. The other characters are fantastic too. There's some really well-known major actors in this movie. Bautista. The guy who plays Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, he's very different here. And you've also got the Jason Momoa that most of us know from Game of Thrones. He too seems he's not the hero of the story. I mean, he plays a hero, and he definitely has some great scenes. But he kind of plays it in a very muted fashion, and I appreciate that. It shows more of his acting range. It's not just look at me, I'm bulky and fighting everyone. But there's he's a really great character. I would say he's almost a bit uh, like he's like Luke's friend Biggs, which we don't really get to see that much in at least in the final cut of A New Hope. But he's that kind of character. He goes away, and then there's this reunion, and then ultimately, well, I won't spoil that. I won't spoil the rest. But the connection between Paul and the character that he plays is reminded me a lot of Luke Skywalker and Biggs. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up. Let me know if you've seen the movie. Please comment and let me know what you thought were the strong points of this movie, what you appreciated. I just want to say it once more. This is a majestic movie. Go watch it in theaters. Don't wait for this to be released on, on your TV or via download. This deserves a big screen. This deserves a good sound system because it's so epic. And for the past, 2 hours? More than 2 hours? I feel like I've been there on that planet. It's so immersive. And I really appreciate that the story takes its time, and yet it's never boring. It's never slow. There's a lot that's happening, and it's absolutely a movie that I want to go see again. But it takes up most of your day, or most of your evening, or matinee, depending on when you go watch it. That is my initial reaction. I hope I didn't spoil too much. I hope you will enjoy it just as much as I did. And for me, I'm just super, super happy to be back at the movies. There are so many other movies that I'm going to watch in the weeks to come. And of course, if I have some time, I'll post a review on my YouTube channel as well. If you like to see those reviews as well, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Signing off, I'm going to bed. I'm Father Roderick. Thanks for watching. Take care.